Charlie is a gay man in his 40s who's housebound due to his morbid obesity. He's forced to move around the apartment with the help of a walker due to his weight of about 600 pounds. Charlie lives in isolation, his only connection to the outside world being the online English writing course that he provides to college students. Being self-conscious about his physical appearance has caused him to withdraw and live such a secluded life. He does, however, live with a longtime friend, Liz. She's a nurse who not only looks after Charlie's medical needs, but also assists him with household chores. Furthermore, Liz makes every effort to persuade him to go to the hospital as he's on the verge of death. Charlie, on the other hand, refuses to go, as the hospital expenses will leave him in insurmountable debt. Apart from this, he also has a daughter named Ellie and his ex-wife Mary, whom he abandoned when she was only 8 years old. As the movie begins, we hear Charlie teaching his class under the false pretense that his webcam is broken and thus turned off. On Monday, we see Charlie furiously masturbating to gay porn on his couch, but suddenly he has a heart attack. He quickly pulls out an essay by Moby Dick from a file next to him and begins reading it while gasping for air. Just then, someone knocks on the door and a young man walks in, rushing over to help him. The man offers to call an ambulance, but instead, Charlie hands him the essay he's been reading and asks him to read it aloud. Later, when asked who he is, the young man, Thomas, reveals that he's a missionary spreading Christ's message of love. He then inquires about Charlie's odd request to read the essay, but Charlie does not reveal much, merely stating that it's a good essay and wanting to hear it one last time, thinking he was dying. Shortly after, Liz returns home and tells him that it would have been wiser to go to the hospital. She then measures Charlie's blood pressure, furrowing her brows as she does so. The blood pressure is revealed to be 238/134, indicating a severe case of high blood pressure. Meanwhile, as Thomas prepares to leave, Liz assumes that he's a member of the New Life Church and asks him if he's acquainted with Doug, who serves on the church council. She reveals that her father is Doug and that he and his wife Cindy adopted her when she was a baby. Additionally, she expresses her hatred for the New Life Church, its gospels, and its proclamations of the end times. Then Liz states firmly that Charlie doesn't need to be converted. However, Thomas affirms that they don't convert, but rather bring a message of hope. Liz finishes his sentence, anticipating every word he'll say. She mentions that New Life has caused Charlie a great deal of pain as it killed his boyfriend, and somehow it caused her a lot of pain too. She also admits that they don't need the missionary coming over, especially this week, as Charlie will most likely not be here in the coming days. Just then, Charlie emerges from the hallway, continually apologizing to Liz. However, she tells him bluntly that he has congestive heart failure and will indefinitely die by the weekend if he doesn't seek medical attention. Later that night, Charlie jolts awake on his couch and notices the earlier Moby Dick essay and reaches for its folder. He smiles as he reads the essay and gently places it back into the folder. Moments later, Charlie begins to walk down the hallway while softly reading the essay to himself. He opens his bedroom door and slowly moves towards his bed. Carefully, he manages to lower himself and lie flat on the mattress. He then takes a few deep breaths while wheezing and gazing up at the ceiling before falling asleep. The following day, Charlie's seen reading an essay on his laptop when he notices an old stash of candy bars. He opens one of them, but then quickly wraps the candy up and puts it back in the drawer. Charlie enters congestive heart failure into his laptop and scans a few articles. Finally, he types BP 238/134 and searches through the results. He takes a look at a few bleak results before slamming the laptop shut. Immediately, Charlie pulls out the candy bar from before and eats it all before hastily grabbing some more candy and devouring them as well. Just then, he notices Ellie standing quietly near the front door. She slowly enters the apartment and just stares at him. Feeling uneasy due to the stare, Charlie asks her about school, which annoys her. When Ellie asks him if he actually cares, he admits to pestering her mother for information. She proceeds to call him disgusting. Charlie, who's already self-conscious, assumes she's referring to his physical appearance. However, Ellie tells him that he's a jerk of a father who abandoned her when she was 8 years old because he wanted to sleep with one of his students. Ellie turns to leave, but just as she approaches the door, Charlie says he can pay her, which stops her in her tracks. He reveals that he has about $120,000 in savings, but insists that she do some writing for him in return. Hearing this, Ellie gets up to leave once more, but suddenly stops and turns to face him. She then abruptly demands that Charlie stand and walk toward her without the assistance of his walker. Not wanting to disappoint his daughter, Charlie grabs the edge of an end table and uses all of his strength to raise himself. Sadly, the table collapses and Charlie falls back onto the couch. He rolls back, dizzy from the pain and lack of oxygen, but manages to calm himself down. He opens his eyes, then looks back at Ellie as she rushes out the front door. Later that day, a pizza delivery guy knocks on his door. It's revealed that the two have a set routine with delivery man Dan, who delivers the pizza and collects the money from the mailbox, rarely speaking to one another. In the evening, Liz comes home with a machine that detects perspiration, and the number on the machine gradually decreases as one relaxes. When she sees one of Ellie's essays on the counter and asks Charlie about it, she notices the machine's number gradually rising again. She instructs Charlie to relax, which irritates him even more, so he takes out the electrodes altogether. After a while, Liz hands Charlie a meatball sub and returns to the kitchen, but he accidentally chokes on a large chunk of meat while Liz continues to speak to him. Finally, she turns around and immediately rushes over to help Charlie and manages to get it out. The following day, Charlie's seen leaning on his walker, looking for a purple-covered blank notebook in his bookcase. As he takes it off the shelf, he notices something on the nearby shelf, an old framed photograph tucked in between a couple of books. He then takes out a picture that's about 6 or 7 years old. With his arm around a slightly younger man, Charlie appears to be standing on a beach in his early 40s in the photograph. Both seem happy, healthy, and young. Shortly after, Charlie stands with his walker at the closed door to the second bedroom. An old key that's covered in dust lies flat on the doorframe. Charlie tries to grab the key with his claw, but it drops to the ground and bounces underneath the washing machine. The same evening, Ellie pays Charlie another visit. He tries to strike up a conversation by asking her about her mother, but she only seems to get angrier. However, Charlie reminds her that she can leave if she wants to, and that she can still keep the money. Immediately, Ellie asks Charlie why he put on so much weight. He replies that the death of a loved one had a profound effect upon him. However, when Ellie inquires about his partner's passing, Charlie declines to address it. Just then, Charlie asks her to write something for him as he pulls out the purple notebook and offers it to her. She declines, but Charlie challenges her to reflect on the poem for some time and then craft a sincere piece of writing. A short while later, Thomas comes over to visit Charlie. After Ellie leaves, he discusses the Bible and the end times with Charlie and tries to persuade him to accept God. Furthermore, Thomas says that God will remove Charlie's soul from his body and replace it with a new one made of pure light. However, Charlie's adamant that he has no interest in being saved and wants everything to end. Just then, Liz comes in through the front door while lifting a folded wheelchair behind her. She notices Thomas but just glares at him and then pulls the wheelchair the rest of the way through the doorway. Immediately, Thomas tries to leave, but Liz stops him at the door and invites him to stay for a chat. Meanwhile, Charlie sits in the wheelchair and wheels himself around, smiling and pleasantly surprised. In the midst of all this, Thomas attempts to leave again, but Liz walks him outside. She lets him in on the secret of her big brother Alan, who used to work at New Life before leaving for South America. Furthermore, it's revealed that their dad pressured Alan into marrying a girl from the church he barely knew, so he didn't want to come home. When he returned, he met someone else with whom he fell in love and began a new life. Unfortunately, their dad kicked him out of the church and his health deteriorated after that. Moreover, a few weeks later, someone noticed something washing up on the river's bank. She screams angrily that it was Alan, the love of Charlie's life, and her brother. However, their dad still refuses to admit it and claims Alan's death was simply an unfortunate accident, denying him until the end. However, Thomas still insists that all he wants is for Charlie to be saved when Liz bears down on him, telling him that he'll be dead in a few days. Later, Charlie enters the second bedroom in his wheelchair, which Thomas helped unlock. There, he notices a Bible with the number 72 written on it and quickly becomes agitated, so he leaves the room. Later that night, the pizza delivery guy arrives again, and they repeat the routine. However, this time, the man introduces himself as Dan, and Charlie also introduces himself. On Thursday, Ellie visits Charlie to pick up the essay he was working on earlier. She then explodes in rage before breaking down and telling him that he could have simply called. Eventually, Ellie calms down and makes a sandwich for the two of them. Charlie then finishes the sandwich and falls asleep in his wheelchair. Ellie, on the other hand, holds a small marijuana pipe and takes a hit, blowing it in Charlie's direction. However, he does not wake up and continues to snore. She then makes her way down the hallway and walks over to the closed door to the second bedroom and opens it. In contrast to the rest of the apartment, the bedroom seems to be perfectly organized and well kept, but it appears to have been untouched for several years. Right then, Thomas comes over again, and Ellie admits that she slipped some sleeping pills into the sandwich she made for him. The two smoke marijuana together, and Ellie starts questioning him, and Thomas admits to stealing money from his youth group and escaping from his home and church. Meanwhile, Ellie secretly records his confession on her phone. Just then, the front door opens, and Liz walks in along with Mary, Charlie's ex-wife, and Ellie's mother. Mary and Charlie have a heated argument when she sees Ellie at his house. Mary then reveals the amount in Charlie's bank account that he intended to leave Ellie, causing Liz to burst out into a rage over being lied to. Mary and Charlie argue alone about their marriage's breakdown and their failures as parents. As Mary walks away, Charlie admits tearfully that he's hoping Ellie will be the confirmation he needs that he's done something right with his life. Hours later, Dan, the pizza delivery guy, arrives again and follows the same routine. Charlie goes to get the pizza at the door, only to see Dan staring at him from the stairwell, reacting with disgust. After such a reaction, he reverts to binge eating and consumes the pizza dangerously fast. Charlie then takes out his laptop and starts writing a profanity-laced post to his students before shutting down his laptop. He continues to look around the kitchen for more food, but then he feels a pain in his chest and throws up everything. Later, Thomas pays him a visit and reveals that Ellie allegedly recorded him confessing to stealing the money, then sent it to his former church and family. They seem to have forgotten him and are welcoming him back home. Then, after a while, he reads a Bible verse that Alan had highlighted and explains that he died because he preferred his life with Charlie over God, ultimately blaming Alan's homosexuality. This causes a heated discussion between the two about God and his existence. On Friday, Charlie informs his class that he'll be replaced due to student complaints. He does, however, read some of the students' honest submissions, and in response to their honesty, he turns on his webcam for the first time. The students are taken aback, so he ends the class by throwing his laptop against the fridge. Later, Liz comes back home, and she notices Charlie's breathing becoming more shallow. But Charlie's still adamant about not going to the hospital, so Liz stops pestering him about it too. When she consoles Charlie, he begins to mumble softly about Alan's death. Suddenly, the front door opens, and Ellie charges inside, holding the essay from before. Liz tells her that Charlie's dying when she asks what's wrong with him. Ellie then insists on speaking with him alone, but then berates Charlie as he attempts to reconcile one last time. When she confronts him about his rewritten essay, Charlie reveals that he replaced it with a critical essay of Moby Dick that she wrote in 8th grade because he considers it the most honest essay he's ever read. Charlie requests that she read the essay aloud for him, which she reluctantly does. While Ellie's reading it, Charlie stands up and tries to walk toward her without his walker, something he had previously attempted but failed to do. Right then, Charlie begins to float upwards as Ellie finishes reading, being immersed in a bright white light. Finally, the last scene shows a memory of them on a family trip to the beach. The end.